You're listening to The Secrets of Doctor Who, where we discuss everything about the hit BBC Disney Plus series, Doctor Who. And today we're discussing the first episode of the new season of the 15th Doctor, called The Robot Revolution. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today is Jimmy Akin. Hey, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
And Father Chip Hines. Hey, Father.
Hello, everybody.
Father Chip joined us for the Christmas special, and he'll be joining us for this season of the 15th Doctor. So we're glad to have him with us. Folks, be sure to get your very own Secrets of Doctor Who t-shirt, phone case, or more by visiting sqpn.com/merch. We have tons of merch for you to check out. So please go there to find it. So we're talking about this premiere episode. Let's get right to it. Jimmy, what can you tell us about the recap of this episode?
This week, we have a flashback to 17 years ago. A young man named Alan Budd has bought a star certificate for Miss Belinda Chandra, his girlfriend, and named a star after her. Meanwhile, back in the present day, Belinda has become a nurse, but robots from the star Miss Belinda Chandra arrive and kidnap her to become their queen. The Doctor follows her, but he's having problems due to a fracture in time. When Belinda arrives on planet Miss Belinda Chandra 1, she discovers a human society that began being oppressed by its robots 10 years ago. They install her as queen and plan for her to marry a device known as the AI generator. This means that she will fuse with it as a cyborg. The Doctor reveals himself, and he and a group of rebels get Belinda out. But in the process, a woman named Sasha 55, who the Doctor had invited to become a companion, is disintegrated. Belinda learns about the Doctor being a Time Lord, and the Doctor learns that the robots have a future version of the same star certificate that Alan gave Belinda. After realizing that people are dying because she's not cooperating with the robots, Belinda decides to turn herself in and go through with the merger, hoping that she can convince the robots and the AI generator to stop the war against the humans. But it turns out that the AI generator is really the AL or AL generator, and inside is a cyborg version of Alan Budd, our villain for this episode. While bringing her to Miss Belinda Chandra 1, a confused Belinda had told the robots to get him instead, so they did that, but they passed through the fracture in time to 10 years ago. They brought Alan to their planet, promising it would be like a video game where he got to make the rules and always win. He became the ruler of the planet and started the robot revolution against the humans. He also began to become cyborgified over the years. Belinda is repulsed by him and his insensitivity to others, but she feels that she has no choice but to go through with the union. However, the Doctor manages to get her a copy of the star certificate, the future version of which Alan is holding. And when Belinda touches the two certificates together, the Blinovitch limitation effect causes the time differential between them to short out. The Doctor saves Belinda, but Alan is de-aged and reverts to being a sperm and an egg, which a polishing robot sweeps up. Afterwards, the Doctor reveals to Belinda that he's met her descendant in the 51st century, Monday Flynn. He wants her to become a companion, but Belinda saw what happened to Sasha 55 and just wants to go home. The Doctor tries repeatedly to take her back, but they keep bouncing off the date she left. It's not because of the fissure in time, because the Doctor says he closed that. He's at a loss to explain why he can't take her straight home, and he says the journey may be the long way round. As the TARDIS fades out, we see evidence floating in space that the Earth has been destroyed. The end.
Father Chip, what did you think of this one?
Well, I thought there were some good parts. I appreciated the special effects in this episode. I thought they did I think that with the Disney money, they've done a really good job with the special effects. If you time traveled, if you could get into a TARDIS in 1975 and come to our time and see the difference in the special effects of Doctor Who, I think you'd be like, wow, they've come a long way. So that was excellent. And I think I liked the Doctor in this episode. I thought he was appropriately, kinetic, appropriately himself. He seemed more like himself than in previous episodes of this iteration. He seemed more doctor-y to me. if that's a word. He even used the phrase "timey-wimey," which I thought was funny.
I like Belinda's reaction to that. What am I 6?
What am I 6? Yeah, that was funny. Overall, a pretty competent episode.
How about you, Jimmy?
I liked it. Okay, I thought it was better than as a season opener than Space Babies. I thought it had some nice elements to it. I liked Belinda. I like the fact that she is a reluctant companion. We haven't had that since Tegan.
Or Donna.
No, Donna, sort of. I mean, for one episode, but then Donna sought the doctor out and became a proper companion who wanted to travel with him. In fact, she wanted to travel with the doctor forever. So we haven't had someone who has an ongoing arc of being, I don't want to be here, since Tegan, when she stumbled aboard the TARDIS at the end of the fourth Doctor's time. So I like that. I like that Belinda stands up to the Doctor. She has elements as a companion that seem to combine aspects of both Martha Jones and Donna Noble. So that's interesting. I thought she was the high spot of all this. The name a star after you and you become queen of the planet is silly, but I'm okay with that. What I didn't like about the episode was its handling of Alan, but we can get to that.
Yeah, we definitely will get to that. So my impressions is there was actually talk about the Doctor's kilt before, when people had seen some episodes. I like it. I like the Doctor kind of leaning into the Scottishness of Shudigatwa. I think that's kind of fun. The bootstrap paradox is kind
of... As someone who wears kilts, I don't have any problem with it.
Yeah, exactly. Although some objected to pants with kilts. I'm like, I guess. I don't know if that's a thing or not. The bootstrap paradox is an interesting problem that they're dealing with. But,
because one of the mysteries that's left hanging, there are actually several mysteries that are left hanging at the end of this. The Doctor says that some man told him to find Belinda, and we don't know who that man is.
Right.
So that's an ongoing mystery. Also, there's the mystery of how did the robots get the future version of the star certificate, which and they even though they've said that Mundy Flynn is Belinda's descendant, the Doctor openly raises the question of, is this destiny? And he points out their genetic match is way too close for that gap of time. And so there's more mystery there too. So we've got some ongoing mysteries to solve this season.
And apparently when they chose this actress to be the companion, Belinda, she'd already, they didn't know that when they cast her for Mundy Flynn. So this is all added in extra after the fact. She does remind me in her personality a little of Donna. That sassy, I'm not your girlfriend sort of attitude toward the Doctor, which I think is fine. I think we've had way too many, the Doctor is my boyfriend companions. Although I'm a little over I'm a 21st century young woman from the London or England area, if you want to include Sheffield, who is an unknown factor who is the chosen one of some sort or another. I mean, we've done that with Rose and Amy and Clara, and now in Ruby, and now Belinda. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I think they need to do a little better job of widening the net of the kinds of companions they have. I liked Dan. I liked Graham. Even Ryan was okay, because they were not the Doctor's boyfriend or girlfriend.
We needed other Jamie.
Exactly. It's exactly what I told my wife last night. I want another person from out of time who, from another time, or a Romana, even like another
planet.
Or another person from Gallifrey. Just something different. Anyway, that's my little rant there. We can get more into that. The plot is a very Moffat idea, way of doing things, which is take something mundane, these kind of, silly, gimmicky star registry certificates. I'm buying a star for you. It's your star. These things exist in reality. And then spinning it out like, what if it really did become your star because of that? It's almost a Hitchhiker's Guide. Douglas Adams sort of idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also Stephen Moffat-y in that there is a timey-wimey aspect to this because of the fracture in time, which they never explain. So that's something else they could potentially explain, or they might just drop that.
Yeah. When this episode opened and they had this 17 years ago scene, my first thought about Alan was, Alan's neurodivergent. He's socially awkward. He's not good with girls. This is going to be a guy who's kind of has social differences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my first thought, because one of his first lines as he's about to give her the star certificate, is he points to the star and he says that it's 4 quadrillion miles away. And then he says, I know girls aren't good at math, but that's a long way away. And my first thought was, oh man, that is a terrible line from a writing perspective. Yeah. You're making us hate this guy immediately.
Right.
And
plus it's not even accurate.
It's also not accurate. But then they just keep pounding on Alan from a writer perspective in this first scene, because he gives her the star certificate in a frame in wrapping paper, and she does what any normal person would do, which is tear off the wrapping paper. And he says, you could fold the paper and save it for later, but never mind. And then she objects, or at least questions. She doesn't apparently like Miss, because it says Miss Belinda Chandra on the certificate. And she says, why does it have to say Miss? And he says, are you married? Then it's Miss. And that's like, okay, 4 things that are designed to make us hate Alan in this first scene. And that's just heavy-handed.
And
it is.
And the thing is I have 2 boys who are neurodivergent, and I know other young men who are neurodivergent. And this is kind of how they are, like to different degrees. Let me put it, and not paint a broad brush, but they often will say things that seem true to them that are social niceties. So you don't say, like, there's a thought out there that girls aren't good at math. It's not true. Girls can be very good at math. But but even if you believe it, you don't say it. But there's less of a filter. And this is one of the reasons why, young men who can be neurodivergent sometimes have difficulties relating to other people, and social media makes it much worse. So it kind of cut me a little bit right off the bat, like, oh, we're doing this to the only, and this turns out to be 2 young white men in this. And I hate to bring the racial stuff, I guess, the woke stuff off right off the bat, but
both of whom are unsympathetic.
And both of them are unsympathetic, and the only 2 who represent that category. And it's like, why do we have to do this? And at the end, we'll get. Yeah. I think we'll get to the end later. But
the other is a native of Miss Belinda Chandra 1, who's the other unsympathetic white male,
who's unnecessarily antagonistic.
Yeah,
So that was my
Manny is his name.
Yeah.
Right on the nose.
Trade name.
He's very Manny.
Yeah.
So let's go from there. The doctor's running around looking for Belinda, and meanwhile she's at her house when the very 1950s style spaceship lands, which is kind of fun. The robots come knocking. This is very similar to another story where we had aliens come in the middle of the night invading a house that looks almost exactly the same house, frankly.
I do like when Belinda is in bed and the robots are landing, we see some nice colors that I just thought were visually interesting, because instead of a normal, blackness outside of her window blinds, we see this green and yellow as the spaceship, I guess it has a flame as it's landing. And that green and yellow combination is just pretty. And it's something you don't normally see on TV. There are certain color palettes that TV producers overuse these days, and this ain't one of them. Right. So I liked seeing that.
Yeah, lots of blues on TV.
Blues and oranges. Yeah.
By the way, the doctor killed a whole bunch of people in the hospital when he knocked out the power.
Yeah.
Potentially.
It was for the sake of a joke.
Yeah. Just kill it. All the people in the ICU.
I'm sure the backup generator kicked in. Don't worry.
Eventually.
He was using his sonic to scan a computer, and that blew out the power system in the hospital.
Yeah.
Right. So
also, Mrs. Flood is now
what's that?
Belinda's neighbor. Well, Mrs. Flood is a character who they have big plans for.
Yep.
And she's going to be in every episode this season. I mean, at the end of the last season, before Sutek had his big exploit, she indicated that she certainly talked like she's a big villain.
Yeah.
And so she wasn't as big as Sutek because she disintegrated like everybody else, but she's a big villain, and she regularly breaks the fourth wall.
She does.
And so now she's seeded into this episode, and apparently she's going to be seeded into every episode this series, maybe sort of like Susan Triad was, although I doubt the explanation is going to be the same. I think they'll give us a different explanation for why she keeps popping up. In this, as Belinda is being taken off by the robots. By the way, the robots, to prove they were serious, she says, like, what if I don't go with you? They evaporate her roommate's cat.
Yeah.
And that's a dramatic moment. You don't normally kill the cat on a show like Doctor Who. And I was seeing one review of this episode from someone who saw it in a preview in a movie theater, and they said there was an audible gasp when the cat disintegrated. And I'm not surprised. You don't expect that on family television.
Disintegrated a dozen people, but if you kill a cat,
we see its skeleton and everything.
Yeah.
But then as the robots are hustling Belinda out, she's given Mrs. Flood a message to deliver to other people about she's being kidnapped and so forth.
Right.
And Mrs. Flood says basically nothing. And I mean, she's reacting, but she doesn't really say anything. And that suggested to me that she is behind the kidnapping in some way. At least I think that's a strong possibility. And then just after the robots take off with Belinda, the doctor comes running up to her, or comes running out of the house. This is they have this sequence that's like at the beginning of Partners in Crime, where Donna reconnects with the doctor and they keep missing each other. And that's what is happening here. Belinda doesn't know about the doctor yet, but he knows about her and he keeps missing her. And so he runs out, and Mrs. Flood starts to turn away from the camera and go back into her house. And she looks at the audience real quick and says, "You ain't seen me." And so she's deliberately hiding from the doctor, which is another thing that suggests her villainous status at this point.
It's a very Missy mannerism, that turn to the camera, turn to the audience, the fourth wall breaking. So it's kind of curious to say the least. As they're flying through space, there's that time skipping moment. The doctor calls it later.
Schwab.
Yes, and that's where we get somehow all of the craziness, the bad things that happen. Although, why were the robots so ruthless? Like, apparently, that's the moment when Alan is brought forward, and then we cause this robot revolution.
Yeah, because Belinda doesn't know why she's being taken, and she keeps saying, "I have nothing to do with this." She knows it's connected to the star certificate because they brought the star certificate from her time. She's like, "I have nothing to do with this. That was given to me by Alan Budd. Go get him." Right. And they do. But in doing so, they go back 10 years, and then he warps the development of their planet, which leads to them going back to get her 10 years later. So it's a bootstrap paradox.
Right. Yeah, but before he warped the development of the planet, the robots were still violent and antagonistic.
No, I didn't get that. I think Alan started the robot revolution. The robots that were violent and antagonistic that went back to get him were from our time. They were not from 10 years ago. In fact, there's a human who notes that your robot technology is 10 years ahead of ours.
Right. But when they come to the house, to Belinda's house. They blast things and they kill the cat, and
Yeah.
they threaten her life. So they're antagonistic toward her at that moment for reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know
Yeah.
why. Whoever originally sent them before the Alan, change of things had sent them in an antagonistic way. I guess
it's timey-wimey, Dom. Don't think it. Don't overthink it.
I guess. So we get her to the planet, and there's a gimmick where somehow, for some reason, the robots can't hear every ninth word that you say.
It's a glitch. Yeah.
It's a glitch. It's like,
and this is a really good scene. Mm-hmm. I really liked this scene. This was very nicely done up to a certain moment. The doctor, so Belinda is in their throne room, and she still doesn't understand a lot of what's going on. So they say, the humans who are there, and one of the humans, Sasha 55, has already slipped her the message, please help us. Mm-hmm. She's said a lot of stuff that's subservient to the robot, but then on the sly, she says, please help us. And then the humans say, let's have our official historian explain. And the doctor steps forward as the official historian. We later learn he's been on this planet for 6 months, and he has been working with the underground resistance, and he got promoted to be official historian for this moment. And so he steps forward and starts talking to Belinda about the robots and their plans. And then every ninth word, he'll say a word with special emphasis, like listen and to and me and carefully. And every ninth word, he says something, and she starts responding, and she's got to count on her fingers up to 9 words so she can slip messages back to him.
Yep.
And this is
as good at it as he is.
Yeah.
No, she's not.
And among others, I mean, besides the fact he's a Time Lord, he's had all this time to plan his speech, and she hadn't.
That's the very, very thing.
Yeah. But this is a very effective scene. This is really nicely done. I really liked this until we get to the end of the doctor's message to her, and they repeat it in flashback, cutting out all the intervening material. And it's like, no, that takes the edge off of this. It was better the way it was when you didn't sum it all up for me. And I could follow it just fine by the way he was emphasizing every ninth word.
Respect your audience.
Yeah.
So they didn't expect the audience to get it until they spelled it out for us, which is unfortunate because I think the audience can.
Yeah. Once you know what the doctor's doing, it's easy to follow his message.
Mm-hmm. So the revolution in the throne room kicks off. There's a firefight. The robots start disintegrating people.
And we learn the doctor's plan for Sasha 55. It's get Belinda home and then come back, and the doctor and Sasha are going to tour the universe together. Right. So she has a companion invite. Right. And then in the firefight, she gets disintegrated, and we see her skeleton and all.
Yep. And the doctor cries at that moment.
And that's an appropriate cry. I'll get Sasha or Shudigatwa cries too much, but I'll give for a companion, I'll give it to him.
Yeah, exactly. They when they get away to the underground, the rebel base, they're in a medical area. We have there's a lot that has to happen in this story. When you have a new companion, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen. The doctor has to introduce himself. We have to have the TARDIS. He has to explain what we're doing and what we're going to do as my companion. All that sort of stuff has to happen, and they have to integrate that into the story. So at this point is when we get the integration of, I'm the doctor, I'm a Time Lord, I'm not like everyone else, I have 2 hearts. We have all of that happening in the scene. They
do it in a nice way, though, that's revealing, including that's revealing a Belinda's character, because they've just escaped from a firefight. They're in this medical place. There are all these, I mean, it's like an underground bunker, but there are all these people that are being treated for their injuries. And Mundy is a nurse. So Belinda is a nurse. So she just goes to work. She starts figuring out, okay, this IV drip here, whatever's in it, she doesn't know what the drug is, but it's empty. So she volunteers to get a new IV drip and put it in. she also tells the doctor, "Don't shush me," which is nice. And as she's putting a blanket on one of the wounded people, the blanket shows his internal organs on it. And the doctor explains to her this is an X-ray blanket, but radiation free, in which case it's not an X-ray blanket because X-ray is radiation, but it's a radiographic blanket. And then he holds it up to himself and shows that he's got two hearts. And we get the clearest depiction. We've known that the hearts are side by side on Time Lords ever since the Fourth Doctor's time, because when the Fourth Doctor meets fellow Time Lord Drac, he says, "Cross my hearts and hope to die," and he crosses it in a way you can tell they're side by side.
Right.
But here we get a nice, CGI image of the Doctor's two hearts pumping. And so I like that. And Belinda is also not impressed by the fact that he's called the doctor, and she's like, "Doctor what? She's used to working with doctors who have names." Yep. And he says, "Just the doctor." And she says, "Oh, well, then I'm just the nurse." and he says, "Good team."
Yeah. She even puts her ear up to his chest to hear the heartbeat, and we get the da-da-da-dun
from the opening theme.
Yeah. So that was nice.
Yeah, I'm not as much of a fan of her personality as you are, Jimmy. I found it a little grating and a little bit like she's a little bit too much in on everything. She doesn't get properly scared of the robots or even anything that's going on around her on the planet. She's just sort of like accepted it as like, oh, okay, now I'm on this robot planet. And it's like real humans wouldn't act that way, I don't think.
Not an ordinary human. I give you that. But what I like about her, knowing that she's our companion going forward, is how different she is. Because many companions would freak out and fold up, or just scream their heads off, or be so amazed and impressed by the doctor. And I just find her refreshing as a companion. But I acknowledge that her reaction to this is not what most people would have.
Right. And her just her general attitude was like about the doctor. Oh, you're a doctor? Of course, all the nurses do all the hard work and the doctors just stand around kind of attitude like that. She even said that. And it just kind of turned me off a little bit. But
it is something that is an impression that's out there. There's an episode of Community where the study group is in a hospital and a nurse comes out and Jeff Winger announces he's going to go back and see Pierce Hawthorne, and the nurse says, "But you can't, or I'll," and he says, "What, do twice the work for half the pay?" and he walks past her and I'm blanking on her name. Britta says, "See what he did there? That's a complisult, part insult and part compliment." I invented that term. See what I just did? That's a humble brag.
I like Britta.
But it is a bit of a trope, the sassy nurse who thinks the doctors don't do as much work as they do, and that sort of thing. It is a bit of a trope. Who told the doctor about Belinda? How did he get on her trail? Do we get that in explanation?
All we're told is some man, it was a male, told the doctor to go find her.
Okay.
But they do not resolve who that is, and the doctor brings it up at the end of the episode, or at least I've seen it brought up, but it's one of the mysteries that's left hanging. It's kind of like when Clara became the 11th Doctor's companion. She said she had called a woman in a shop or talked to a woman in a shop, and that turned out to be Missy.
Right. So we are told that the date that which Belinda was kidnapped was May 24th, 2025. That is
the date of the final episode.
Second to last episode.
Second to last, okay.
Which is very interesting to me. So it implies that getting her back is not going to be the end of the story for the season. So I think that's going to be an interesting aspect as we move along. Speaking of Manny, so this is the scene where we really get Manny's personality here. He he accuses Belinda of being as bad as the robots because because you're the queen and you're as bad as they are, and she hasn't done anything yet except say it's not my fault. Like,
well, she also tried to stop the robots, and they explained, we apologize, but your prerogatives are purely nominal. Right. So she has no authority over them.
Like, Manny is like unreasonably antagonistic toward her.
Yep.
Like you could write it where I don't hate you as a person, but what you stand for bothers me, or something like that. But he just hates her for no reason.
Well, so in favor of this character choice, he has just seen a bunch of people that he fought alongside and care about disintegrated.
Yeah. And
on our side, we didn't know any of those people. So we're not going to feel it like he does.
Right.
So we've had, especially like back in the early days of Doctor Who, like in the Patrick Troughton era, we've had people who are just irrationally hostile to the Doctor when he lands. And that's always been one of the worst parts of the show.
Yeah.
And so I view this as bad writing, and it is, it's bad writing here.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is bad writing. And I think it's, I almost want to, I don't want to say it's on purpose, but it feels like it is in some ways. Like we're supposed to hate this guy, and for no reason other than, he's
well,
a guy, I guess.
It may be in service of a line that comes up later. Because so before we get to that though, the Doctor somehow figures out that the star certificate that they have on this planet is from like 5,000 years in the future, and this sequence of events is their foundation myth for their future civilization 5,000 years from now. And Belinda ends up, by the way, I like all the Miss Belinda Chandra stuff here.
Yes.
I like that the star is Miss Belinda Chandra. I like that the planet is Miss Belinda Chandra 1.
Yep.
I like that they're dropping Miss Belinda Chandra bombs on people.
Yes.
I like that
Belinda Chandra bots.
Yeah, they're in Miss Belinda Chandraville. And I really like that the race that outwardly looks like humans, but they have a different organ internally than we do, which they show us on the X-ray blanket. I like that their race is known as Miss Belinda Chandra kind. Yes. I think that's awesome.
Yes.
But Belinda ends up concluding that, and this is actually okay, but she ends up concluding that Manny is right. That that she says she decides to turn herself in, and she reprograms this polishing droid that polishes floors so that they can trace them and the robots will come get her. And she acknowledges, I did this, I'm sorry, but people are dying and it's my fault. Once I'm part of the machine, I can talk to it. Maybe I can lead it towards peace. And so that gets us into the presence of the AI generator. And it uses a line. She again makes a comment about not liking the miss part. And I that could be a dig at traditional gender roles for women, because you had the Mrs. distinction. And so if you want to read it through that lens, I guess you could. But the AI generator then says, "Are you married?" And at that moment, the penny drops, because she realizes that's what Alan said to her. And she realizes it's the AL generator, not the AI generator. And they even give us a close-up of AL on its outer surface, so we can see it's not AI. And then it opens up, and there's a hideously cyborgified Alan in there. And so he is our villain for this episode. But this reveal would have been a lot better if they had not gone so hard on Alan in that first scene. This would have been more of a surprise. It's like, that guy? And then as he explains what happens about he was brought here by the robots and they told him it was going to be great. It was going to be like a video game where he gets to make all the rules and he ends up giving orders for people's deaths. And he really wants to merge with Belinda and subsume her consciousness into his so he can literally tell her what to think, which is horrific. It's genuinely horrifying, and it leads to the line which Belinda says, "Planet of the Incels." But except for Alan is the only real incel here, and even he has managed to have a girlfriend, which incels famously tend not to.
Don't. Right.
And so I think, tying into your point, Father, I think the reason that Manny is so hostile is to maybe lend support to this line, as we've got a member of Miss Belinda Chandrakind who also could be read as an incel.
True.
What I don't like about all this is it's all too on the nose. I watched a video from someone who's actually seems culturally progressive, who pointed out, even though I would disagree with them on a lot of issues, they pointed out that unlike in the past and on other shows, when they would use science fiction metaphors for real world problems, they've stopped doing that on Doctor Who, and they just pick a real world topic like COVID, which they did in the Christmas special, or incel culture, which they do here, and just attack it unsympathetically. And no subtlety, no sympathy, no trying to understand the viewpoint of the other people. It's just mock them. And that is bad write-in.
Yeah,
it is.
And it is not like Russell T Davies' original run on the show. Russell T Davies has degenerated as a writer because he does not display the subtlety that he once did in handling issues. I don't have a problem with them showing different viewpoints on the show than mine. That's fine. But you need to be subtle about it, and you need to be sympathetic to people with other viewpoints. And they're just not doing that. They're just mocking people that they disagree with. I wish I knew more. I don't really know much about incel culture. I would probably, in reviewing this episode, I wish I did, because I think I could give a sharper review. But I can tell they're just mocking incels here. They're not trying to be sympathetic.
Right. And I go back to what I said before, which is that I think a lot of guys who get identified or lumped in, they tend to be young men who get duped by these internet jerks like the big,
Andrew Tate.
Yeah, I didn't want to name any particular because I don't want to necessarily get sued, but but some of these guys out there who proclaim like I can tell men how to get women, and they're awful men. I mean they treat women like objects, and that's terrible. And then you have a lot of these young men who are socially awkward, who maybe neurodivergent or on the spectrum, or just lonely, and they buy into this culture because it promises them something. And yes, it's bad to treat women like objects, but in addition to that, there was no sense of Alan as a person here. He is just a trope.
He's a jerk, and that's it.
Yeah, when he dies, like he's a victim. He's a victim of Belinda. She's the one who sent the robots to go get him. When he dies, they laugh at him being swept up as a sperm and an egg.
Yeah, the doctor says goodbye, Alan, and I'm just going ick.
Yeah, that was awful.
This young man, cut off, killed.
Now, I would say it is Belinda that leads him to being brought there. I don't know that I'd describe him as her victim.
No.
But because she wasn't trying to hurt him. This was unintended consequences.
Right.
And he was a jerk the moment he got to Miss Belinda Chandra 1.
True.
He ordered the death of the previous historian for no good reason. for example. But still, he's a human being, and there are people who, now I'm not an incel, I'm a widower, but I know what it's like to be lonely, and there's no sympathy on the part of Russell T Davies there. I don't know if that's maybe because he's too used to participating in gay hookup culture. But if you're straight and you're trying to live certainly if you're trying to live a life in accordance with Christian morality, you're not just going out and hooking up with people, and it can be lonely. There are costs involved to trying to do the right thing from your perspective. And that's something that, incels may have other problems like neurodivergence or garbage in, garbage out cultural information, but they still are people with feelings who deserve sympathy. And this reversion of Alan to, he's a sperm and an egg now, polish. Oh, and he's just been polished away. I mean, goodbye, Alan. Yuck. It's an icky moment.
It really is.
It would be one thing if Alan from the beginning was just like an abusive boyfriend jerk, something. Like if he was
even that though would be, here's this trope again.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. It feels like from the beginning we needed to have a Planet of the Incels, or this was the message of this episode, and we built the story around it. And it just feels like, as for all the reasons you pointed out, Jimmy, it never feels good to have a story where we pound it home without subtlety from the top, and then in order to push,
where you're just mocking a class of people,
right? Yeah. I don't love it. I don't like it. So that part, there's other things I like about this episode. That is the part I really dislike.
Yeah. So to stick the landing on this, what I do like is the scene that follows in the TARDIS, where the doctor is explaining to Belinda that he's met her 51st century descendant, and he scans her really quick with the sonic and compares her DNA to Mundy Flynn's, and is saying he's so excited. It's like, I don't know if this is destiny or what, but she just brings it. She lowers the boom on him. She says, "You're dangerous," which is true. And she says, "I don't want what happened to Sasha 55 to happen to me," because she's seen what can happen to a companion. And I thought that was good. Having Sasha 55, I hate to say it this way, but as a red shirt, to give Belinda a different motivation. Is the point has been made. Companions can die, and they've died in the past, and it's been a long time since we had a companion die. So in a sense, there's kind of time for it. Though I don't think they're going to do it. Not currently. It would, with these short seasons and companions staying for only one season, it would be a big downer to kill the companion.
Right.
But on a dramatic level, she's seen what can happen, and she points out to the doctor, "You just scanned my DNA without my consent." And he's like, "Oh yeah, that was kind of inexcusable, wasn't it?" And so I like the way she just, "No, get me home now. I'm not one of your adventures." And I like that. That's very refreshing.
I did see someone object that, scanning the DNA, I'm trying to help you. I mean, this is a standard procedure. We need to scan people to make sure they are.
No. This is he's met a woman who looks like her 3,000 years from now.
Right.
That doesn't entitle you to invade someone's privacy and just scan their DNA.
I wonder, is it kind of make the doctor kind of like the other, like Alan and Manny, in that sense of where just being pushy through, not respecting her consent.
He didn't respect her. In her culture, you cannot do a DNA test on someone without their consent. And he knows that, and he did anyway just to satisfy his own curiosity.
But that's the Doctor, isn't it? I mean, that's very Doctor-esque of him. I mean, other Doctors have done the same thing.
I wouldn't. I'm not saying it's not doctory.
Right.
I'm just saying it's wrong for him to do that.
He's getting called out for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the first movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least if he's going to claim to respect the people he's working with, because this is not their culture. It's like if I waltzed into someone's culture and violated one of their cultural norms, well, I'm not respecting their culture then.
True.
And so he does say, okay, I'll bring you back. I'll bring you home. And when he tries, though, they're bouncing off of the date, May 24th, 2025. I'm not sure. Can you go the day after, the day before? I don't know. But land.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, weird how he didn't try that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the day after probably wouldn't work. And it probably was because the Earth was destroyed, etc. You know, that as we saw at the end.
Or at least that's part of it.
Right. So they have to, as he says, go the long way round. So, all right. The thing is, so, I mean, I mentioned this at the beginning and I kind of said it again. We have all of these female companions who are the chosen one trope. You know, Rose,
Mary
Donna,
Seuss.
Clara, Ruby.
By chosen one, what do you mean by that?
There's something special.
I mean,
about them.
who does the choosing?
Well, in the sense of the chosen one is a trope, is they're special to the universe, that they're chosen by destiny, by fate, to be, that everything hinges on them and what they do. You know, that Donna becomes the Dr. Donna. Rose.
Oh, well, that was stupid. And that was only at the end. But Rose wasn't like that. And Martha wasn't like that.
No.
And Donna wasn't like that until the last moment.
But
Clara was.
Clara is the exemplar of that.
Right.
Amy, you can kind of, with the cracks in time.
Yes.
But not as much. She's not
really Bill.
Not special the way that Clara was.
Yeah.
Bill wasn't.
But
Ruby a little bit.
was.
Yeah.
Well, Ruby, yes, and then they that totally flamed out when it turned all
really
her mom
did.
was pointing at was the lamppost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird.
It's just, I said it before, you know, let's get a little diversity in companions. I just am tired of the same old thing over and over and over again. Have an American, heck, you know, I mean,
with a real American accent for once.
a real American as opposed to Perry.
And in their defense, the producers thought that Perry was an American, was an American, because they thought Nicola Bryant was an American, because she was married to an American, and so she had an American passport and American citizenship. And they couldn't hear that her accent was not really American.
Oh, man. So.
Well, I got to say one other thing about the writing. I never thought I would say this ever, but this episode's writing kind of made me miss Chris Chibnall. And I never thought I'd say that. I just,
yeah.
I mean, I just think it for all that we've said and all that Jimmy's pointed out, it's not very good writing. It's kind of lazy.
I think there are aspects of it that are good.
Yeah.
Particularly in connection with Belinda, as in contrast to other companions. But good is different than realism, the way I'm using the term. But everything connected with Alan is terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
But I just think, as pointed out earlier, we expect more from Russell T Davies than we would just some other writer who just comes and happens to write a Doctor Who episode. Right. Russell T Davies was there at the beginning. He was the one who shepherded this whole new era and
created modern Who. Yeah. Right.
Exactly. And so you just expect more. And even from Moffat, we expect more. But these guys. So I'm just, as far as the writing goes, while there are some good parts, I think overall for me, it's not as good as it should be, considering who the writer is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Russell T Davies has clearly degenerated as a writer. He can do better than this, but he's off his leash now and gets to playing out his cultural fantasies and insult people he disagrees with.
Right.
I would say the another interesting aspect of Belinda is her growth and identity. This idea of she starts by dismissing herself as unimportant. I'm not special, she says at the beginning when the robots come for her. But in the end, she's because my name is Miss Belinda Chandra, she says at the end. Like she kind of owns it at the end, and then she later on will just say, "Just remember me as Belinda." Like I'm not a icon, I'm not a historical figure, I'm not important. I'm just Belinda.
Also, someone else I saw pointed out another thing when the robot. So one of the reasons the Doctor's been stuck on this planet for 6 months is when he landed 6 months ago, the robots took the TARDIS away and they return it to him at the end of the episode. And even though Belinda has not heard the word TARDIS previously, she looks at it and says, "Is that your TARDIS?" And so that could be explained by a line that ended up on the cutting room floor where she had heard about it, or that could indicate there's another mystery here.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was odd because I hadn't heard the word TARDIS used in her presence throughout that whole episode. And she calls it the TARDIS. And I was like, where's that coming from?
Yeah, and Mrs. Flood, who also knew what a TARDIS was, and fourth wall broke. What, you never seen a TARDIS before?
Right.
Was her neighbor.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
There was a flashback where when he was explaining what happened, his 6 months, and we see the robots take the TARDIS. I don't know if we have a voiceover of him saying the word TARDIS.
I don't think we do. I could have missed it, but I don't think so.
Yeah. No, it's a data point. Certainly, we'll see where it goes with that. Any last thoughts on this one, Father Chip?
Just I hope that the writing gets more crisp during the rest of the season, and that the mysteries kind of play out in a way that is satisfying. I think I wasn't as enamored with the Belinda character as you guys might seem to be. Some, at least parts of her that you like. I found her a little grating. I do like that she is smart, and I like that she is she has a sense of who she is, which is good. That's always good. But the Doctor in a lot of times is trying to help, and like when she says, "Don't shush me," it wasn't like he was shushing her to like be a jerk. He was shushing her because he was trying to explain to her what was going on, and I don't know. I hope they flesh the character out a little bit more so that we see, her really good side, and her really good points are brought out more. I guess that's my takeaway on this.
Jimmy, how about you? Any other thoughts?
Nope.
So yeah, I just want to finish up by agreeing that that her character does come across as grating. I think it's the first episode where you introduce a companion. The only harder episode is when you have a regeneration and a companion introduction. Right. So give him a little slack for having to do that. But I do think the message insertion in this, to quote the critical drinker, is a little heavy-handed. Friend, the critical drinker. It was a little heavy-handed, and I agree on that. All right, so that's our take on the robot revolution. Now, before we go, we want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Doctor Who, including Jeffrey J., Carla S., Charles H., Matthew S., and Alan and Melissa K. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Doctor Who and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. We'd love to hear what you thought of the robot revolution. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com, the Secrets of Doctor Who Facebook page. Send us an email to drwho@sqpn.com. Visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. We have a special spoilers channel where you can talk about the plot and all that stuff before we do our episodes of this recordings. So you feel free to take advantage of both. So you don't have to be spoiled before you get a chance to watch it. So we'll be back. Oh, and also we got to remind you, you can watch The Secrets of Doctor Who on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the next 15th Doctor story called Lux, which is Latin.
It's all about washing dishes.
Until then, Father Chip Hines, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Doctor Who.
Thanks for having me.
And to be Akin, thank you as well.
Thank you to you, Dom, and to all of Miss Belinda Chandra kind.
And once again, I'm Don Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Doctor Who on Star Quest. And remember, all praise the Miss Belinda Chandrabots. I, for one, welcome our new robot